Okay, so now that we've set up kind of fonts and colors, what we can do is start bringing in our data that is from our Excel sheet. So I'm going to go into Excel, and so we've got all of these, which are really interesting, and they've got some kind of interesting data. And so what I want to bring in is I want to bring in kind of these bits of data here, which is Windows 10, Apple OS X, Apple Windows, Linux, Chromebook, and I want to bring in this data. So what I'm going to do is just copy it, so Control C, and then I'm going to go back to Illustrator, and here I'm going to bring in my my data. So what I've got is I've got this panel here. If you can just pull the panel off like that so that you always have access to it, and I want to have it as a bar graph like this, but you can choose to have it any way you like. So I'm going to choose to have a bar graph like this, and I'm going to click there, and it's going to go OK, and it's going to ask you how big you want it. Just leave it at default for now, and we'll go OK. And what we have is it's going to give you almost like an Excel sheet itself, and I'm going to paste in my data. So just Control V, and so what we have is we have Windows 10, 74, and all of the percentages. The thing with bringing this data in is it doesn't understand the percentage point, so you're going to have to just delete that. It just takes a second, and then you can also change the way that this works, and then you just go like that. And then what we have down here, if I just grab the whole thing, is we get like a bit of a table. So I'll just zoom in so you can see what we've got. So it's given us the graph with the legend on the side, and you can do some kind of fiddling with it. You can't do a lot, but you can do some. So you can transpose it like that and change the way that it looks. You can change the cell style and all that kind of stuff, which is not really a huge amount of help, but it's so that there is some stuff that you can do, but not a huge amount in terms of the graph data. And you can change the graph type. So after the fact, you can change it to this kind of graph if you want, and you can also change. You can do a recolor. Be careful with the recolor, because I've really struggled to make it work. It is possible, but I'm not 100% sure how it works. So I tend to not use it. You can, if you wish. You can play around with it. It gets a little kind of funky in terms of what it does, but you can use it if you want. What I prefer to do is rather than use that, what I prefer to do is grab the whole thing and go to Object and Ungroup, and it's going to ask you. It's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Because once you've done that, you don't have access to this anymore. So I'm going to say yes. And so what we've got now is essentially it takes all of this data and it turns it into kind of objects. And in some ways that might be more useful. And so in terms of infographics, I think that probably would. And so I'm going to take away this and this. I'm going to take this object and I'm going to ungroup it again, so because I don't want these to be together, and you might find that they are kind of quite tightly kind of intermingled. So now they're kind of ungrouped. This is all one group. You can always ungroup this as well and then turn this into individuals. So the main trick with this is to kind of remember what is what. So we know that kind of this top one here is going to be Windows. This one is going to be the next one up, which is Apple OS X, this one is going to be Apple Windows, the 0 one is Linux, and this one is going to be Chromebook. So it's kind of like going in reverse order, which is not really particularly helpful, but that's kind of what it's doing. So what I want to do is kind of put those together, because that's going to be helpful. So I'm going to ungroup this and then take this, and what I want to do is I want to put that next to Windows 10. This one, which is, again, it is grouped. I think you can right click and ungroup it, and I'm just going to delete that. And this one is Apple OS 10, and then this one I'm going to ungroup it. This is Apple Windows, and I'm not doing any arrangement on these. And then there was no answers for Linux, so you can choose whether or not you want to have it, but I'm going to not have it. I think there's not enough response to kind of make it worth keeping. And then I'm going to keep this one for Chromebook. Okay. Then these two I'm just going to delete. So what we've got is we've got kind of 4 blocks which represent the data, and we've got our labels which you can put wherever you like. Okay. So a quick kind of refresh on what that means with these. So this one here, at the moment, if we look here, this it's filled with black and it's got an outline of black. This one is filled with yellow, got an outline of black. This one is kind of like a beige color with an outline of black, and this is also a beige color with an outline of black. So in all of these ones, I don't want to have an outline. So I'm going to grab the outline and press that to kind of get rid of the outline, because I prefer a cleaner look. Then I'm going to use my color palettes, and I'm going to turn these. So I'm going to select the foreground, so the fill, and I'm going to give them different colors because I prefer the color palette of this one. And then pick this, and then this. So now I've got a color palette which is echoing kind of the color palette here, and then I can take these and I can change them to a different kind of font, because at the moment they're in La Havre, which I like, but I want them all to be capitals. So I'm going to open up in the type library, it's going to open up character. So I've got character palette, and selecting all of those, I'm going to make them all caps so that they're all kind of capital lettered, and so I don't have to kind of like retype them or anything. And then I'm just going to arrange them so that they're all on this side, and then I can use these as my kind of labels for the bar graph. I'm also going to change the size, kind of make them a bit bolder, because I want to go for kind of a bolder look for these. And I might even kind of decide, well, I'm going to colorize that the same color as my kind of bar graph, so it makes it even clearer. And then I've sort of already started to build the first kind of infographic that I need. So once I've got this, then I can decide what I want to do with it. If I take a bar graph and I stretch it out like this, it's still proportionally the same amount. So make that kind of something that you're aware of. So that will kind of change the way that you maybe design things. Next things is what I did was that I built I built like a banner for this, and so banners are relatively easy. We start off with a shape like this, and this is going to be the beginning of our banner. And so this, I'm going to arrange it, so bring to front. I'm just right clicking on that and make it white, and just center it. I'm going to center it by eye. I'm not going to try too hard to make it exact. You can use the arrow keys to move things if you really want to get it exact. So now I've got this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the two kind of bits at the side that make the kind of pointy bits that are on the banner. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to go object, path, and I'm going to add anchor points. And so what it's going to do is going to add little points at the end. If you go to the white arrow, then you can select all of these points at the end and just move them in. and it's kind of what I want to do. So I just want to move that in like that, and then I can take this one and I can move that like that, so I end up with the kind of the banner on here that goes underneath. I'll just scale the whole thing so I've got a bit more space to work with. So next up is what I want to do is I want to make a kind of a triangle that goes from there to there, and that one has to be a bit darker. So I'm going to use the pen tool because it's just going to be a bit easier. I'm going to draw here, and I'm going to draw there, and then I'm going to connect it up again. And this one needs to be this color but just a little bit darker, so that when I look at the thing it looks like it's a banner doing its thing, and it looks like it's kind of overlapping. And so I'm going to grab this, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to flip it round by just scaling it, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll send it to the back. The only thing that you need to worry about is just making sure it's the right width, so you just scale it alongside, and then the smart guides will help you out. And that's it, so we've made a banner. And then it's all about deciding how you want to show your information. I mean, I kind of made, I took this and made a smaller insert underneath, trying to keep the gaps between everything even, and then using my style guide to create something that looks kind of nice, basically, and trying to use these colors. And sometimes it's useful to take a color and then change the so rather than kind of using CMYK, you go into here and use HSB, and you could change, which is hue, saturation and brightness, and you can change how bright or dark it is, and then you kind of create a color library within a color library, so that I'm using this kind of I'm using this turquoise color to have variations of it, and then I can kind of create my text inside here. So and then I can kind of create like subtext here, trying to use contrast and repetition to kind of make the kind of the graphic really stand out. And then I can start kind of playing around with these, and I can make them bigger to make it kind of more interesting and all of that kind of stuff. Next time we'll go on to kind of creating arrows and creating kind of more complex icons.